G'day fellas and welcome to a casted game. Spawning in on the south side of the map in the colour orange. Playing as the Ottomans representing Team 3D, it is B. And in the north of the map in the colour blue, opening up with a barracks on the English, representing my insanity, it's the Mister. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. We're once again casting EGC TV's Call to Arms. It is happening right now. You can catch it this weekend as well. It'll be on at 15 GMT, Saturday and Sunday. The link will be in the description. Let's talk a little bit about the game that we have got in front of us. But before we do, if you're enjoying this Age of Empires content, make sure you do leave a like on the video because it really helps out with the traction of how those videos do. So let's take a look at the base of Mister and talk about why this is such a smart move early on to be going for this man-at-arms. Part of the reason why this is so smart is because B, as an Ottoman player, there's two key resources that he's going to want early. Gold, stone. If he doesn't have access to either of those resources, it's going to make his day pretty damn annoying, pretty damn difficult to deal with. And that's what Mister's going to be doing. The question is going to be whether he goes for a second one, and indeed it looks like he will be doing that. And you can see that he's already scouted out the town center. This is really important to be doing early on if you're going to go for these men-at-arms rushes, just because if you accidentally go a little bit too far, too close to the town center, too close to the sun, you will be burned. And those town centers do a lot of damage, so it's really important you just know exactly where that TC is. Keep in mind that the line of sight on these men-at-arms is not that great, and it means that you can often run into that town center. So what do we got so far? So Mister comes in, he scouts out this stone, he sees, okay, no stone taken off the top. It means that there's not going to be a military... Hold on a minute. We've got a spearman out already. He's gone for an early barracks. Look at this. There's no way you can get that spearman out that quickly unless there's an early barracks, and you've got a tough matchup here. Spearman going up against the men-at-arms. The men-at-arms obviously have heaps of melee armor, but being outnumbered 2-1 makes it a little bit more difficult. So he's going to wait for those reinforcements to come in. And speaking of reinforcements, Mister now going to be looking for a third men-at-arms early on in this game. And I love the read by B here. The B obviously knows that Mister, he is a guy who thinks outside of the box. He's not going to play standard. You can't play standard against B. That's the reality. B's just a really strong player. He's always trying to throw something else down. So Mister has got to kind of think outside the box here, and he's done that, but B's just read it perfectly. So this is a beautiful opening coming through for B. So let's talk about this matchup and about what we can expect to see. Now, both of these civilizations are pretty damn good in the Feudal Age. However, we've seen players trending away from the Feudal Age here. We could see the second TCs coming out for them, but my suspicions is we're probably just going to see relatively quick castle ages coming in from both of them. We'll ride on board with B for a little bit here, just because when you're watching the early game here, it can be quite difficult for the Ottomans to get the ball rolling against the English. It takes time to get everything up and running. You want to get your first military school, your second military school, eventually add that third military school. By the time that you do, your enemy can already be castle age. They can already be 2 TCs, 3 TCs. I often against the Ottomans, I'm 2 TC fast castle, and I'm having a wonderful day. Meanwhile, they're still waiting for their military schools to come online. So whether Mister looks to do something similar or not, we'll have to wait and see. But the age ups are now beginning to come through. That twin minaret madrasa going to be coming in for B. Men-at-arms going to continue to posture on that north side. And isn't this just such a beautiful spawn for the Mister? Stone, gold, both on this north side of the base, which means that that's all he needs to patrol. Doesn't have to go around the town center to this back stone because that's way too far away. I mean, you could technically come out here if you really wanted to, but I suspect B is just going to be looking in the short term, maybe to get an archer or two out, maybe to go into Sipahi as well as an option. And look at this, just utilizing the extra bodies early on to try and take out those deer. Spearman, good little micro. Could be looking to go for early imams here. I think this would really make a lot of sense. He is keeping these guys alive. Council Hall now coming up for the Mister as well. So we see both players now on the age up. Pretty early age up here for B, despite the fact he's gone for this early barracks. This is really, really early. We're talking about a 4 minutes 45 age up roughly for him. That's still pretty damn quick considering the barracks comes down. Now, it's important to remember that with the barracks here as well for the Ottomans, that is a reduced price barracks. Only 100 wood for that one. So he's really able to get it out early. But we do have that age up now coming through. Let's take a look and see exactly how it's going to be. Isn't that just absolutely beautiful? I think I'm going to start doing this a little bit more, getting rid of all the UI and then zooming in on the age ups when they come in, because I want to celebrate that moment. You know, we're reaching the important stage of the game, a new era. And speaking of new eras right here, B trying to enter into the Stone Age, but unfortunately, doesn't look like Mister is going to be allowing him the opportunity. Mining camp does come up, and you can see that he's balancing it well, but expect to see that vizier point coming through soon. I would suspect it's most likely going to be the imams. Villagers got to be careful. You can see just how much damage they've taken already at this point. Age up slowly but steadily coming through for the Mister on the other side of the map. Microing back and forth. No sign of the vizier points just yet. We'll ride on board with the Mister though and see how he's doing. What upgrades has he picked up? Nothing just yet. But now those farms got to begin to come down. 5 minutes and 30 into this game. And of course, you know what we're going to do. We're going to... Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You got to celebrate it. You got to love it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Feudal Age. Everybody has arrived. I'm going to be your captain today. Oh, two lovely... I don't even know what you call these guys. Our passengers. And there's the imams that are coming out now and straight towards this. So to me, this 100% signals Castle Age. Imams obviously spiking in power in the Castle Age, just because they've got access to relics. So that's really what you want to try and focus on getting to once you've got these early imams out. Obviously, they do very well in this situation as well, just for the heals. But you want to try and maximize the efficiency from that. But we do now start to see B throwing down the blacksmith. He's picked up, have a look at this, 137 stone. So didn't take any more than he needed to for just those 2 military schools. And now able to fight up against the enemy men-at-arms with the spears, just simply because he's got the heals back at home. I expect to see just a couple of Sipahi coming out here, and there's the second military school now going to be thrown down. So this definitely feels like a bit of a Castle Age timing to me. Let's take a look back towards the base of Mister, though. See how he's doing as more and more units continue to come out. Longbow's going to be joining in as well. He's going to have to switch it into Spearman if he wants to try and contest those Sipahi. Obviously doesn't know about the Sipahi at this point in time. Stable, I think, down here. Scout hasn't really ducked its head in recently. Now, one thing to note is in this matchup, it can be very dangerous going for longbows against a civilization like the Ottomans. And the reason why is because of the Sipahi. They've got access to the Sipahi in the Feudal Age, technically in the Dark Age, if you really want to be technical. But the key there is not only do they get the extra attack speed or the extra armor, it's the extra movement speed. Longbows are slower than your standard archer, with a base movement speed of 1.12. Sipahi going to get caught out a little bit here. But with that slower movement speed, it means that they are more susceptible to being caught by archers. And archers are 1.25 speed. And then on top of that, with the Sipahi movement speed, it can make it very difficult if you're outnumbered to have much of a chance playing as the English. So that's always something to keep in mind. But now we start to see archery ranges coming up. Okay, is this going to be a feudal style play? It could be the way that he goes. I was suspecting that it was going to be castle, but it looks to me like he is shifting now with the addition of these archery ranges. Perhaps he's realized that maybe Mister's a bit too all in at this point. Well, keep in mind, Mister's not even really all in. He's still got the economy back at home pretty well owned here. Hasn't looked for any of those eco upgrades at this point. Neither player has. Focus heavily on the military now, but we do see that double broadaxe coming through for Mister. Double broadaxe now coming through for B as well, so that's probably a good sign that we are going to be seeing more and more feudal action here as both players look to try and posture, but look at the amount of vills on gold here. This is 5 vills on gold. There's only so many upgrades you can get in the Feudal Age before that gold starts to stack up and you think, well, I got to start thinking about Castle Age here. But more lumber camps being replaced. Mister scouting that out, seeing all the production facilities here and thinking to himself, oh, okay, all right, we've got a response. So now I guess the ball is in the court of Mister. We take a look at his gold and you can see all of these villagers, 7 villagers right now on gold. Technically 11 villagers. He's bringing even more. There's a good chance he's going to Castle Age here. So looking to try and get the jump on his opponent. He's got a couple of options when it comes to landmarks, but I think the safest one in this position is always going to be the King's Palace. Extra town center means that you've got that little bit of extra scaling into the late game. Always feels good knowing that you're up that town center. But at the same time, I mean, I'm just a huge fan of the Keep landmark. It's just such a good landmark, the White Tower. Or as some people like to call it, the White Castle. They've got some good burgers. I'm not just talking about the Holy Roman Empire. But Age Up about to come through here. You can see that he's only sitting on 500 food, but at 500 food a minute, it's only going to be 60 seconds before it's on the way. And now that scout spotting out more and more units. I think one of the other things to note is B understands that Mister is not adding to this army. He's keeping tabs on this army throughout this game. and he sees, hold on, this force is not increasing in size. Unless he's adding more units back at home and just not running them out, there is something going on here. So I think I think B rather, should recognize this. He's only got the 5 bills on gold at the moment, but I would suspect that these guys are going to be moving over soon. We see these guys coming out over to food. Still 13 bills on wood here. Could be looking for that next vizier point. We're right on board with him just to listen out for it. Steeled arrow now coming through. Wheelbarrow also going to be coming through for B here. Looking to really get that economy rolling. There's that vizier point we were talking about. He's got a couple of options here. Obviously, already got the imam, so has access to that second tier now if he so chooses. You can see he's got a little bit of stone in the bank, so I reckon he's going in for that military school. We'll be looking for military campus here, and then we'll be adding in that 3rd military school. Obviously, if he goes castle age, and there's that military school, so he does indeed go for military campus. But I think with the castle age possibility, he'll be looking for adding in that 4th one. He's also got the MIA to think about, though we have seen a trend away from the MIA recently. I don't know whether it's a meme or a dream, but we've seen people opt for landmarks other than the MIA, which is, I mean, I feel like it's a lot of the power that comes with the Ottomans is the Mehmed Imperial Army. But on the other side of the map, though, B senses weakness. Mr. looking for that age up. The King's Palace going to be thrown down. Only 12 villages on it. I say only like it's only 3. But 12 villages is a pretty substantial amount, and Mr. knows he might be in trouble right now. Age up, still about 20%, 30% to go. Once he gets there, he's going to need to immediately click that upgrade. It takes some time, though. Vils moving away from the front gold. Longbow going to get picked off. Age up about to come through the King's Palace. The age up begins. The new age begins, rather. And now, Mr. immediately looking to try and pick up these upgrades. You can see early men-at-arms looking for the men-at-arms upgrade. He's also going for armor cladding here. And just getting picked off completely. Beautiful timing here from B. He understood what the mission was. The question's going to be whether Mr. is able to keep these villagers alive. You can see that he's starting to scramble the villagers into each of the town centers at the front. He's lost no villagers just yet. But look at this. The imam's actually getting focused down. A little bit of a mistake from B right there. Huge value in those imams and just committing completely to this feudal age attack. Take a look at these resources right now. 48 food in the bank. Continuing to kite away the men-at-arms. They've been upgraded. They've got their men-at-arms, or their veterancy through now. Armor cladding around the corner here as well. And Mr. looks like he is going to turn the tides on his opponent and say, good luck trying to deal with this. This is this is going to be funny. Speaking of funny, I just got an interesting message. I'll read it out to you guys when I when I've got a chance to. We'll focus. I think you guys are going to like this one. This one was a good one. This one just came through from my wife. I've got my phone in front of me, so I get messages. You know, maybe something urgent comes up because she's almost ready. We'll just put it that way because she's pregnant at the moment. Yes, the baby's in the oven. Not too long to go. Anyway, men-at-arms still whacking away. Now it's important to note armor cladding comes in extra 2 armor, melee and ranged. Doesn't really affect the ranged damage. It does affect the melee damage significantly, but you can see that buff up coming through here as well. He has picked up every single upgrade except for the fitted leatherwork nice and early on. More upgrades going to come through behind this, and B just looking to really stick it out in feudal. Going to be outnumbering the men-at-arms here. B trying his best. He's going to continue microing around, but I'm starting to worry a little bit about Mr. here. He's getting torn apart. Look at the beautiful micro coming through. No imams, obviously no imams left, but still these numbers, the men-at-arms, it almost feels like the Burgrave. You know when you're playing against the Burgrave and the men-at-arms just keep coming? It feels like that. He's got 3 men-at-arms in queue at the moment. Only the 2 barracks. You can see them pumping out. And keep in mind, English men-at-arms do train faster than the average bear. So that's another important factor to consider. Behind this, it looks like he's just committing 100% to the men-at-arm defense at the moment, and he's going to be able to find it. I think this is way too many men-at-arms. B needs to get to Castle Age, and he needs to get to Castle Age now. It is so important that he gets up to Castle Age, looks for crossbows, looks for knights are going to be a huge help to him here, and I think he's going to do the right thing. Focus on getting Castle Age. Behind this, I'm hoping there's a lot of villagers. Yep, okay, there we go. A lot of villagers are on gold. That's exactly what I wanted to see. So now he's going to be looking to go Castle Age, and what he wants to do is avoid fighting the men-at-arms, make sure sure that he draws his enemy into his own base. That's the real key here, is he wants to make sure Mister doesn't come and attack him, and you can see that's what he's going for right now. Wants to draw his opponent into his own base and say, hey, don't attack me, defend yourself instead. And that is the smart play from B right here. And that's a game-winning move, because if he can get to Castle Age behind this, he's got a lot of infrastructure. We're talking 1, 2, 3 military schools. They're up, they're online. He will have resources for that fourth one very, very shortly. And we can hear behind that the next Vizier points come in, and he's gone for the Janissaries in the Feudal Age. Feudal Age Janissaries are online. You can see that he's got plenty of resources in the bank, so he could still be looking for that Castle Age play. This is huge, though. 8 Janissaries now going to be coming out. These guys have got extra damage against cavalry, so that cavalry is not a threat. They will annihilate these men-at-arms. 155 health. Each one of these guys does 16 damage. Now, obviously, there's a fair bit of armor that you're dealing with here, but this is going to be pretty. The Janissaries, the unit that gets talked about the most for this civilization as being one of the worst in the game, comes out onto the battlefield and begins to take shots at those men-at-arms. Good night, sweet prince. Say g'day to my little friend. Landmark now coming down. It's going to be the Istanbul Imperial Palace. We talked about it before. There's been a trend away from the MIA, and it seems like it's going to be the case today. Nice little micro techniques coming through from B, just looking to try and keep those units alive. And behind this, meanwhile, take a look at this. In the rear with the gear, the Janissaries, the hero of the day. Don't you ever comment that Janissaries are weak. Look at this, up against their mortal enemy, the men-at-arms. There's nothing they can do. Nothing. I mean, to be fair, it's not the mortal enemy. That is hyperbole at best, and at worst, just a lie. Longbows are what are going to deal with these quite effectively. Meta back here on 2 health. He can look to pick it off. Does indeed find it. Now the Janissaries will be threatened. Keep in mind, they do take extra damage from the longbows. So you can see just how much damage they're taking. He's got to be careful, but doing a good job in kiting back. Keep in mind, the meta doesn't have that extra movement speed by the looks of it. Sapai going to come out. Age up begins. Well, new age begins, rather, and still getting picked off one by one. Unfortunately, it looks like he's down to 7 Janissaries, but they are going to be the heroes of the day towards that north side. Sabahi getting chased away by the men-at-arms as well. All right, well, let's talk a little bit about that message. So, as I mentioned before, I've got my phone just sitting here in front of me, just in case any emergency comes up, and my wife sent me a message. Dummy on the roof. So, dummy is what we call in Australia a pacifier. And we've got windows that are open, and they only open a little bit on the top story, and he's gotten on the couch and he's thrown the dummy. This is my son. He's 14 months at the moment. He's gotten on the couch, thrown his dummy outside onto the roof. Oh, God, he's a cheeky little boy. I don't know what we're going to have to do. What are we going to do with him? We're going to have to turn him into a Janissary for Halloween, I think. Look at that. That's a beautiful little costume. I like the headpiece. That's the highlight for me. Numbers are looking good, though, for B. And it's important to note that he's taken out a fair amount of villagers behind the scenes. 7 workers so far taken out this game, which means that the economy's not too bad. In fact, Mister's spent a lot of his resources on those men-at-arms rather than on villagers. I don't know whether it was idle time that's happened here, but B is absolutely popping off. He's sitting on 57 workers at the moment, compared to his opponent only on 51. So doing a really solid job. And keep in mind, he's got those military schools that are playing for him as well. And those don't count on the villager numbers. So I'm looking at that like, is that bugged? How could that possibly be? But I think it makes sense in that Mister was really just trying to scrounge together a defense there. He's been up for what, 4 or 5 minutes? And technically should have a lead. Every minute should be a 3 villager lead. So if it's 5 minutes, it should be a 15 villager lead. But he's lost 7. But then on top of that, he's behind by 4. So it's like, where did these other villagers go? And my only explanation is that he has put food that was intended for villagers into men-at-arms so that he could stay alive. Makes perfect sense. So far, looks like it's just going to be a longbow men-at-arm defense. Big numbers. But unfortunately, not going to be fast enough to deal with the knights or lancers, rather, that are coming through. Will make their way in onto the back line and are going to begin chasing, or being chased, rather, through the base of our English player. And Mister's in a bit of a tough spot. Now, if you didn't watch the first 2 games in this series, that's okay. I'll spoil it for you now, unless you want to go back and watch them. They were the other 2 videos that were uploaded before this. Mister won them both. So technically right now, this is match point. I didn't want to mention that earlier because I don't want to spoil it for those who have or haven't, or have watched it or haven't watched it, rather. Now, there was actually another game between the game that I'm casting and the last game that we casted, but it was only for 11 minutes. And I said, well, you know what? Guys on YouTube, they don't like 11-minute videos. Every time I post a short video, they say, I want to watch something with my lunch, I don't want to watch something for when I'm on the toilet. I say, fair enough. That's a good point, but you're oversharing, and I don't need to hear that. I'm just kidding. They don't say that. I say that. But you guys get the point, right? Like it's yeah, it's one of those things. I think it's a bit awkward, right? Because I could come in to you guys with like a second game, like tack it on to the end, but it kind of ruins the tempo. I feel like we'd have to wait for the next one to load up and sit there and talk. We'd shoot shit for a little bit, like we kind of doing right now. But you get the point. All right, upgrades coming through for B now. Tier 2s. In fact, for both of these players, fertilizer on the way. They've already picked up horticulture. Their Tier 1 upgrades. And now I'm expecting, yeah, we're going to see crossbows starting to get mixed in from Mr. here. A bit of an interesting comp that he's going for here. So, as you guys know, I am the world's #1 fan of spear crossbow. I think spear crossbow is the undisputed champion of the world when it comes to compositions. I love it. I just love it. The key is that you've got to mix a mango in. That's it. Just one mango. It's like a fruit salad. And people often forget the mango. But you got to have it. It ties it all together. Brings it all back. There's nothing like that good little bit of nectar that just... Beautiful. Second relic. Now coming in for B. He's already got the one in the bag back at home. Imams are out as well. I love that he's going aggressive with these as well. Picking up his opponent's relics before he even touches his own. He's got one right here, nice and safe. But he says, I want the one over there. Give me your relic. This puts Mr. in a bit of an awkward spot as well because now he's without relics. And that's not a position that you want to be in the English late game. Mainly because we've got nerfed farms. So even though it's one of the best late game technologies in the game still, enclosures, it got nerfed. It's not as strong as it used to be. In fact, English late game got hit a number of different ways, and they are by no means the king that they once used to be in the late game. I think that crown probably goes back to China. You guys remember the good old days where China... Okay, do you guys remember when Chinese bombards had pyrotechnics and they got +2 range, and you had 12 range bombards, and you could kill enemy cavalry with your bombards? Weren't they just that? It wasn't that so much fun. I loved that time. That was, as a Chinese main, I had so much fun playing China back then. And it was crazy because you could like stack all the buffs, right? Like you could make them, you could supervise your astronomical clock tower and you just like make, oh, good times, good times. Could you supervise the astronomical clock tower? I remember them changing that. Yes, you 100% could supervise your astronomical clock tower. They were the good days. You'd stack all the buffs on them. They ended up having like 5 or 6 different buffs. Movement speed, extra health, extra armor, you know, faster firing, longer range, extra health from the clock tower. They were the good days, man. They were the good days. The king of the late game. But I guess now it's obviously changed. It's more oriented around fire lancers, palace guards, that sort of thing. Pop cap. It's being reached. It's not 200 population, though. It's important to note. It's just players are not building their houses as quickly as they could. Nice little men-at-arms raid coming through here. Reminiscent of the Marine Lord... the Marine Lord's... oh my gosh, I'm losing my mind here. The Marine Lord Spearman raid. You guys remember that one? I think that was a Wallalol special. You just send a single spear into the base of the enemy. Numbers are looking pretty thick right now for the Mister. His main weakness is going to be cavalry. Take a look at this. No spears in this composition at all. It's part of the reason why I'm such a big fan of him. Spearman crossbow. He's got the crossbows mixed in, but the longbow men-at-arms, I just can't help but feel like he's just going to get absolutely destroyed here. Have a look at this. Huge component of this army is cavalry, and there's no response for it here. You've got longbows that deal effectively with the Janissaries. You've got men-at-arms that'll do okay against the Sipahi. But what are you going to do against all of those lancers? When they've got the meta in the back as well, that's ready to roll over the top of you, it's going to be real tough. Those charges are going to come in. A lot of damage is going to be done. Military pop looks pretty even at the moment, but take a look at the army value. 8,700 versus 12,300. He's going to look to push in right now. Mister's got to be careful. He's up against a huge cavalry composition. He's only got infantry and nothing to brace. All of the cavalry begins to chase. B now looking to clean up this mess that Mister has made. The meta in the rear with the gear. No movement speed, but is going to provide that extra attack speed. And now I think Mister realizes he's got to turn and fight. Janissaries looking to say goodnight to all of those men-at-arms on the front line. Longbows, he's trying to pick off these units on the back, but it's not even going to matter. The cleanup crew is through, and I think this one's going to be called for B. There's no two ways about it. Outpost is coming down for Mister, but at this point, it's just 2004's hit single from JoJo all over again. You know it's just too little too late. Mister Say goodnight, sweet prince. It is all over Red Rover. B, what a beautiful performance there. But at the same time, you can't help but feel from Mr's perspective, this was foreseeable. We knew that there was cavalry out on the field, but not a single spearman was brought to the game today. What was the reasoning behind it? Did he genuinely think you could take that much cavalry with just men-at-arms? I guess he really didn't know about it until he saw it. So we'll leave it there. Make sure you check out EGC TV this weekend, 15 GMT, Saturday and Sunday. Not a bad little game coming in from these two. We'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.